It's Warrior Wisdom Wednesday on Coffee with Alain. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate everybody, whether you join live and comment, watch a replay, listen to the audio on the website, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Thank you. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate everybody signing up for the newsletter, checking out the courses, all the available resources at enjoylifesafely.com. So thank you, everybody. Now let's look at some warrior wisdom from this book, Striking Thoughts, Bruce Lee's Wisdom for Daily Living. Taking a little passage under the health heading, to flow like water. The method for health promotion is based on water, as flowing water never grows stale. The idea is not to overdevelop or to overexert, but to normalize the function of the body. I like that passage because it sort of reminded me of yesterday. And I didn't just have 3 appointments yesterday, like I said on Coffee with Alain. I actually had 4. I had to go and have that physical at 9 o'clock. Then at 10 o'clock, I had the joint replacement class. Right after that class, 11 o'clock, I had the appointment with the surgeon's assistant. That was a short appointment. But then in the afternoon, I had to go across town to St. Patrick's Hospital to have blood work and an EKG. So I had 4 different things yesterday. And one of the things I got out of that class sort of reminded me of this flowing water never grows stale concept that Bruce Lee talks about in this book. Because in that class, the physical therapist was telling me that very important to start the PT exercises immediately after the surgery and to be doing those faithfully every day. And he gave me a page of exercises. There's some you do laying down, there's some you do sitting, there's some you do standing. And you need to do all of those 2 to 3 times minimum a day, as well as getting up at least every other hour and trying to walk. The first day it's going to be short, 5 minutes, but you're going to be increasing that. But you got to be flowing like the water. Because he said, worst case scenario, you don't do any of that. And you just veg out watching TV and you're not moving that leg and doing the exercises and doing the walking. Scar tissue is going to build up and you're not going to be able to use the leg. And worst case scenario, you go back on your 6-week checkup. And if you don't have the proper range of motion because the scar tissue is all built up and keeping it from moving, he said the surgeon has to go back, open you back up, clean out all the scar tissue, and then you start over with your healing from ground zero again. You sure as hell don't want to do that. So extremely important to do the exercises and different things that they tell me to do immediately after the surgery and keep that motion going. And that just sort of reminded me when I was looking at Bruce Lee's quote here that health promotion based on water, flowing water never grows stale. You have to move. You have to continue to flow and keep your joint working after the surgery. We have to keep all of our body flowing and working, or it would grow stale and have more problems. So that's, I thought was pretty relevant, especially related to that class that I had to go to yesterday for the upcoming surgery. So just passing that on, regardless if you're having surgery or you're perfectly healthy, we got to keep flowing to maintain that health, maintain the mobility and the things that we can do. I'm going to say good morning to Thad's here. Good morning, Thad. Thank you for showing up and saying hello. Good morning, Dixon. Dixon said, welcome to being among the aged, you old fart. Yes, getting old sucks. I mean, it does. It's better than the alternative, they say sometimes, which that's debatable and arguable at times. But, as you age, you're going to have to deal with different things. And that's just what we have to do. You will never be doing what you do when you're 20s and 30s, when you're 70s and 80s. Not the same. You know, reminded me of Dr. Kim, who Dixon knows, a number of years ago at the Korean Martial Art Festival. And I may have shared this before, but it's worth sharing again, especially on Warrior Wisdom Wednesday, talking about a martial artist who's still teaching. And I think he's 86, 87 this year. And he was teaching last week. I missed seeing him when he was there. But a few years ago, he talked about, and he had some magazine covers. And he had a cover of a magazine when he was younger doing this really high flying kick. And he talked about when you're younger, you could do all that acrobatic, the high flying and fancy stuff. Then he had another magazine cover from when he was probably in his 40s to 50, maybe, 50, somewhere in that age. And he was doing different type of techniques. He was doing joint locks techniques or something on the cover. But he said, as you age, you're not doing the flying kicks and all of that as much anymore. You change things. Then he held up a recent magazine cover when he was probably in his 70s, when that cover came out probably. And it was more of the mental training and different things. And he was talking about, in that talk that he gave us, the progression as we age, how our training and our development and everything sort of changes. And our mindset changes too. I study a little bit more philosophy. I try to pass that on with my social media posts and with Coffee with Alain and things more now than I did when I was younger, when I was so focused on just the physical. The physical is still important, but I don't do now, pushing 60, what I did when I was 18, 19, 20, in those ages. Okay. And then when you get injuries, whether it was the wrist, now the knee, different things like that, you have to modify and change how you do things. Doesn't mean you quit. It just means you modify and change and shape how you go. And you keep flowing like water, as Bruce Lee so elegantly said many times in different passages, different things, to keep going forward, to keep yourself as healthy as possible so you can continue on, even if it's a little different than what you did when you were younger. Hope that gives you something to think about. A little bit of wisdom for Wednesday. I'm going to get off here because I got lots to do today because I spent so much time at appointments yesterday. Got to do some catching up. Make it a water-flowing, wisdom-filled Wednesday, and I will be back to see you tomorrow.